أوكي، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. This is فرض الصلوات الخمس hmm? وإيجابها. No. What does it say? وأبحاثها وأبحاثها. Sounds a bit odd, doesn't it? وأبحاثها. It's their research. Sounds like something off. Allahu a'lam. Anyway, حدثنا محمد بن يحيى قال وفيما قرأت على عبد الله بن نافع. Right. So basically here our author is studying with Muhammad ibn Yahya. Muhammad ibn Yahya is studying with two very important students of Imam Malik, Abdullah ibn Nafi' and Mutarrif, both of whom are not just muhaddithin but fuqaha. Okay, so فيما قرأت على عبد الله بن نافع. So I read. So he's saying basically his sheikh received this hadith in two separate ways, and he's being very specific about it. He's saying that he read it to Abdullah ibn Nafi', but Mutarrif read it to him. Okay, so he's trying to make sure. Sorry, my kids are trying to navigate how to wash their teeth. May Allah clean their teeth and their hearts and their minds. I mean, so the point is. His teacher is the teacher of the author is being very specific exactly how he received this hadith. One is through that the Sheikh Mutarrif read to him. The other one is that he read to Abdullah bin Nafi'. Right? But both of them are narrating from. So he says wa, that means these are two separate things. So it goes the Sheikh, his teacher, and it splits and joins again, right? So his teacher has two sources, right? So it says wa, that means there's two different things. It is not that Abdullah bin Nafi' narrated from Mutarrif. Does that make sense? Okay. عن مالك عن عمه أبي سهيل بن صالح عن أبيه أنه سمع طلحة بن عبيد الله يقول جاء رجل من أهل نجد إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثائر الرأس. So he comes from northeast Arabia. ثائر الرأس, his hair was all a big mess. يسمع دوي صوته, you could hear the ring of his voice. He had a very loud voice. ولا يفقه ما يقول, but nobody could understand what he was saying. حتى دنا, till he came close. فإذا هو يسأل عن الإسلام فقال له رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم 5 صلوات في اليوم والليلة. قال هل علي غيرها؟ قال لا إلا أن تطوع, أي إلا أن تتطوع. So there's two tas here. أنت تتطوع, you voluntarily do extra acts of worship, right? So تتطوع, so the ta is dropped. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وصيام شهر رمضان. قال هل علي غيره؟ قال لا إلا أن تطوع. قال وذكر له رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الزكاة وقال هل علي غيرها؟ قال لا إلا أن تطوع. قال فأدبر الرجل وهو يقول لا أزيد على هذا ولا أنقص من هذا. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أفلح إن صدق. right? He has succeeded if he has spoken the truth. Right, so the point is that it is not obligatory to pray anything other than the 5 daily prayers. So therefore, for the Shafi'is, Taraweeh, not obligatory. Witr, not obligatory. Eid prayers, not obligatory, etc. Right? It's just the 5 daily prayers. حدثنا علي بن خشرم قال حدثنا ابن عيينة عن إبراهيم بن ميسرة ومحمد بن منكدر سمع أنسا يقول صليت مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الظهر بالمدينة 4 وصليت معه العصر بذو الحليفة بركعتين. Right, so this is the concept of shortening prayers. So when you got to so ذو الحليفة, he says قرية تبعد عن المدينة على طريق مكة 9 كيلومترات جنوبا وهي اليوم بلد عامر فيها مسجدهم. Right? So the issue is not that it was 9 kilometers, right, which is what 6 miles away from. It's not that you can joining and shortening 6 miles. Is that you have left Medina and you are going to somewhere like Mecca, which is far away, right? So it doesn't mean that you can't join a shorten before that. As long as you leave Medina, you're now a traveler. If you're going to a place that whose city limits are far away from Medina. حدثنا علي بن خشرم. Seems like this is one of his key teachers. قال حدثنا عبد الله يعني ابن إدريس عن ابن جريج عن ابن أبي عمار عن عبد الله بن بابويه بابيه. Right? This sounds like a Persian name, بابيه. عن يعلى بن أمية قال قلت لعمر بن الخطاب, the verse of Quran, ليس عليكم جناح, there's no sin on you, أن تقصروا من الصلاة إن خفتم, right? If you are in a state of fear. وقد أمن الناس, says, well, there's no longer, people are not fighting in jihad anymore and doing these things. فقال عمر عجبت مما عجبت منه فسألت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So he said the original idea of shortening prayers was because of life or death situation, because of fighting. Why is it now that do we still have this dispensation? فقال صدقة تصدق الله بها عليكم فاقبلوا صدقته. Right, it's a charity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, so accept his charity. Right, for the Hanafis, wujuban. Right, فاقبلوا صدقته wujuban. You are obliged, when you can shorten, you have to shorten. It's not an option. Right, for the Shafis, we say both. It's a sadaqah, you can or cannot. حدثنا محمد بن هشام بن ملاس الدمشقي قال حدثنا حرملة بن عبد العزيز الجهني في سنة 92 و100. So notice, the later we get in the chain, the more details are going to add. It's the more common to see dates, places, exactly how the hadith is narrated. Does that make sense? So issues of حدثنا أخبرنا قرئ عليه وأنا أسمع, right? These kind of things you're going to find later on in the chain, right? Earlier on in the chain, you're not going to find these details. So this is Sanata Thintani with right. So 192. قال حدثني عمي عبد الملك بن ربيع عن أبيه عن جده عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال مروا الصبي بالصلاة ابن 7 سنين واضربوا عليها ابن 10. Right? This is a hal. Right? Command the generic child to pray. Right? Ibn 7 سنين, when he's reached 7 years old. So this is a hal. Right? حال كونه ابن 7 سنين. So command him to pray when he is 7. واضربوا عليها ابن 10, and beat them concerning it when they reach the age of 10. So this tells us, obviously, there's something called physical discipline. It's not something that is forbidden in Islam, right? And tells us something pretty serious, right? So how do we treat commanding children to pray? Like the issue of washing their teeth or going to school, right? Like, not going to school is not an option. Washing your teeth is not an option. This is something very serious, not a joke, right? So same kind of issue. Your son comes home and he threw an egg in his principal's face. Is that considered acceptable? Is that normal behavior? What do you think, Zafar? Ammar, is it normal, Ammar, in your side of the world? Your kid, your kid throws an egg at the right? So that's fairly serious, right? Your son, for example, is repeatedly using racist jokes, right? That's not a small thing. It's quite a big thing, right? What are you going to do, right? So how are you going to manage this? You're going to sit down with him, make sure he understands what he's saying, what's going on, etc., 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 right? And if it's continuing, the kid now understands, right? This is now pretty serious. So we have to. That's the point, right? Doesn't mean ritualistically beat your children when it's not a ritual, right? And the ulama, they say that if it doesn't work, then you don't do it, right? In so many situations, it's not going to work, you know. And so, what do you do if what about when you reach puberty? So he's now it's on them, right? It's now a criminal offense, right? So basically, before it was between you and the kid, and now it's a criminal offense. So now the court finds out, the court commands him to pray. If he doesn't pray, that he gets executed in the Shafi school, right? So it's pretty serious. It's not a joke, basically. So we have to understand that the whole idea of kind of like giving people space to make their own decision is a bit um, uh, it's like kind of some kind of overkill, right? So I mean, as a parent, I'm not a seasoned parent. Zafar, you have kids? Zafar, you there? So anyway, there's certain things like it's kind of like overkill, right? It's like we're kind of like, oh, let the kid decide or let them work it out. It's like, I want to let my child decide whether or not they should give salams to the grandparents. It's like it's just rude, you know. It's like, oh, he doesn't want to. I don't want to force him. I don't want to make it fake. It's like, well, it's rude, right? You just can't like not give salams to your grandparents. What's going on? Um, um, so there's certain things that there are obviously people are traumatized by fake rules that they're forced to do, right? That's true. But what about non-fake rules that you're forced to do? You know? So if it's a fake rule that you're forced to do, you can imagine they kind of get this resentment. It doesn't make any sense. Why are we doing what we're doing, right? But what if it's like I keep explaining to my kids why they have to wash their teeth, why they have to go to school, why they have to be respectful, and then I'm like, oh, it's okay, let them choose. Like it's not really, you know. So it doesn't really seem to be that uh, like that way. Wallahu a'lam. Right? The Prophet ﷺ is saying, you know, um, command your children to do it, make sure they do it, and beat them concerning that if they don't do it. Right? It's not a joke. It's a pretty serious thing. Wallahu a'lam. حدثنا محمد بن يحيى قال حدثنا عبد الرحمن بن مهدي عن حماد بن سلمة عن حماد ibn Abi Sulaiman. Right, this is the Sheikh of Imam Abu Hanifa. عن إبراهيم النخعي. عن الأسود عن عائشة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال رفع القلم عن ثلاثة عن النائم حتى يستيقظ وعن الصبي حتى يكبر وعن المجنون حتى يعقل أي أو يفيق. Right? So, so what does that mean then? It means you're not responsible for praying when you're asleep. Right? And you're not responsible for praying as a child. So even though you're responsible to command your child to pray, he does not have to do qada when they reach puberty. Right? And similarly, وعن المجنون حتى يفيق, and somebody who's insane. So you're insane, you're in a coma, right? So do you have to do qada of the prayers you missed while you were insane, while you were in a coma? No. He says وحدثنا محمد عن عفان بهذا وقال حتى يحتلم. Where does it say that? Right? عن الصبي حتى يكبر حتى يحتلم. Same thing till he reaches. Right? So the difference between the majnoon and the na'im is has to do qada. Right? But the majnoon does not, because the majnoon is totally is out of taklif 100%. Right? He's not responsible at all. Okay. So it says مواقيت الصلاة. says حدثنا أحمد بن يوسف قال حدثنا عبد الرزاق الصنعاني قال حدثنا سفيان. So I'm pretty sure that this is Sufyan الثوري عن عبد الرحمن بن الحارث قال حدثني حكيم بن حكيم عن نافع بن جبير عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أمني جبريل عند البيت فصلى بي الظهر حين زالت الشمس فكانت بقدر الشراك. Right? It's one line. Right? The shadow is a line. So what is it? The zenith plus 0.1 over plus not 1 over infinity. Right? The tiniest moment past the zenith. ثم صلى بي العصر حين كان ظل كل شيء مثله. And then he prayed Asr, right? In the when the shadow was the shadow of objects outside were the same as their heights, right? ثم صلى بي المغرب حين أفطر الصائم. Then he, right? ثم صلى بي العشاء حين غاب الشفق, when the shafaq disappeared, which is according to majority of scholars the red. ثم صلى بي الفجر حين حرم الطعام والشراب على الصائم. ثم صلى بي الغد الظهر حين كان ظل كل شيء مثله. Right? So here the outward purport of the hadith is that the end of Dhuhr and beginning of Asr are at the same time. And that is the opinion of some scholars. Right? Some scholars say there's a moment of overlap. Right? The correct position is no, it's approximate meaning. Right? So they prayed Asr when the shadows are the same length as objects. And he prayed Dhuhr at that time, i.e., a moment difference, right? The very last moment of Dhuhr is approximately when the shadow of each when an object shadow is the same as its height, right? And then a little bit after that is going to be Asr. Right? So when we say that, we're saying that's going to be assuming the sun is directly above you. Right? If the sun is not directly above you, then we're going to say the original length at the zenith. Right? So now you're in the middle of winter and you live in Calgary. Right? And here is a barn. This barn is 20 foot tall. Okay? There's always a shadow. The shadow is always about 10 foot. Right? So now, in order for Dhuhr to end, it has to get to 30 feet. Right? 20-foot high barn, and the shadow is already 10 foot at the zenith. So, because the sun is very low, and so now this is going to be it has to get to 30 feet before you're going to pray Asr. ثم صلى بي الغداء حين كان ظل كل شيء مثله. ثم صلى بي العصر حين كان ظل كل شيء مثليه. So the first time Asr was prayed when an object's when an object's shadow is the same as its length plus a little bit. The second time was when it was twice that. So notice how Sayyidina Jibreel did not lead the Asr. Asr was not prayed at the end of its time, at, for example, 2 minutes before Fajr, before Maghrib, right? So according to a relied upon position, if it's not the relied upon position in the Hanbali school, it is actually sinful. Praying at the Hanafi time, which is the 2 mithls, right, is actually sinful, right? So that's what we should follow, is always pray Asr before the Hanafi time, and then repeat with the Jama'ah if you're able to pray in the Jama'ah. Right? If you're not going to pray in the Jama'ah, then that's fine. Right? So it is, it's not so in the Shafi school it's makruh, and the Hanbali school is either haram or makruh, and I believe the reliable position is says haram. Maliki school, it's also an issue. So, we should, and also Imam Muhammad, and I believe also Qadi Abu Yusuf agreed that the Asr comes in earlier. So the idea that Asr comes in later is just the position of the Imam Abu Hanifa. Wallahu a'lam. يا رب. ثم صلى بي العصر حين كان ظل كل شيء مثليه ثم صلى المغرب حين أفطر الصائم لوقت واحد. This is the position of the Malikis, and Imam Shafi's Jadid is the position he died on, which is Asr Maghrib has one time. In both days he prayed Maghrib at the same time. It tells us that there is no window for Maghrib. Maghrib comes in and you pray, that's it. This is Imam Shafi's Jadid. The Shafi school says no, you have until Asr, right? They follow the Qadim, the Shafi school, but Imam Shafi's Jadid and the Maliki school is no. Maghrib comes in, you pray Maghrib, that's it. You don't have any window. ثم صلى بي العشاء إلى ثلث الليل الأول. Then he prayed, so Isha can either be prayed at the end of Maghrib, which is the red of the sky disappears, or up to 1/3 of the night passing. What is the night? Is sunset till Fajr. That's the night. Sunset till Fajr. Okay, so the time from sunset till Fajr, that is the night. Cut that in a third. That means you're going to pray Asr in the winter. You're going to pray Isha pretty early, and in the winter, sorry, in the summer as well. Give me something like that. Okay, excuse me. Yeah. So ثم صلى بي الفجر فأسفر بها, and then he prayed Fajr, and he أسفر بها, he prayed while it was light outside. ثم التفت إلي فقال يا محمد هذا وقت الأنبياء من قبلك الوقت فيما بين هذين الوقتين. Right? He says you have that's your in between those two stages. Right? And so this is a proof against the position of Istakhri. Istakhri says that delaying Fajr until it's light outside is not just offensive, it's actually haram. So we say it's offensive. The Shafi school says it's offensive, not that it's haram. حدثنا محمد بن يحيى قال حدثنا أبو نعيم. يا رب. Okay. If it's okay, my sincere apologies. I'm going to have to stop here. I'm literally falling asleep. So inshallah we'll stop here. My apologies. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه.